I am Shelly Lyon, and I am going to be doing a quick tutorial video on how to be an innovative teacher. There are 8 characteristics of an innovative teacher, and I will be giving an example of each characteristic. The first characteristic is being an empathetic educator. You need to be able to crawl into your student's mind and be able to see the world through their eyes to be able to find their passions. And so with one of my classes a couple days ago, we had a class meeting, and the students were able to give me ideas of what they wanted to do in vocal music, what they wanted to share at the concert, and then how they wanted to go about doing it. And so for each class, the students saw me typing down, and then it was up on the TV so they could see that, how they want to go about what it is that they want to share. So there are some differences between the classes on what they want to do and what they want to share at the concert. The how to do it part, I found it was very interesting that it's all pretty much the same thing. Working on singing, working together, good behavior in class, participating, practicing. Those things came up a lot. And now I kind of know what it is they would like to do in the class. Also, part of my plan here now and in the future is to do a survey of my students to find out if they're in choir, if they're planning on joining choir, and why. And so I'm going to have my students fill out this survey, and then I can collect some data here. It's very important to find out why students are in choir, because that will inform your recruiting process, and it should help increase the program. So that's all part of being an empathetic teacher. It's important, secondly, to be a problem finder and a problem solver. A good evidence of that is one of my students who's in drama. Her name is Lajada, and she was really struggling the first couple weeks of class. So I went to a master teacher that I trusted, and I'll show you her. She is a fantastic relationship builder with her students, and she is right here. I talked to Shelly about my student Lajada, and Shelly said, okay, she is a relationship kid, and she might not do anything the first couple weeks until she gets to know you. And so what I did was I piggybacked on Shelly's relationship with Lajada, and we agreed to start having lunch, the 3 of us together, Shelly, Lajada, and I, and we started having lunch every Friday, and that was a way that we could discuss non-school subjects, find out what Lajada is interested in. She can see me as a human being also. That really helped solve that problem, and now Lajada is an engaged student. She's not necessarily always compliant, but she is really successful in the drama class now. A third characteristic is being a risk taker. It's important to be willing to fail. And this is an example of one of the risks I took. I know it looks good now. It's a backdrop for the play we did. However, it didn't start out this way. I had a big idea of putting students in charge of the backdrops. And so I bought glitter and glue and paint, and I just turned my students loose in my room after school one day. And I said, hey, you basically just, paint on the words, and then you do some glue, and the glitter will stick only to the glue, right? Well, it was an absolute disaster. Left to their own devices, they had glue all over my room. There was paint all over my room too, and the sign looked terrible. And the reason it looks good in this photograph is only because I spent hours after I sent the students home. I had to try to pick off all the black glitter, not just silver glitter, but black glitter. So I had to paint white coats over it, probably 4 or 5, maybe even 6 coats. So this is an example, and I kind of smile when I see it because I remember what an utter failure that idea was. That what I learned from the process is that the students really need some instruction. They're not going to read my mind, and the instruction part of teaching is very important, the step-by-step, and I had to make sure and connect previous learning and find out what they knew, what they didn't know. So I really learned a lot from that, but I did pay a big price for that one. So that one is being a risk taker. An innovative teacher knows how to network with good educators and make connections with them. They can make global and local connections for their students. And here is an example here of a video that I took when I took my choir to a high school. My choir is 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, and I made a connection with the high school near us, North Star, with those teachers, and we worked out kind of a recruiting trip, an upward recruiting trip, rather than me taking my choir down to an elementary school. I took them to North Star, and they got this type of reception that you'll see here. And coming in the door are my students. They're wearing the choir t-shirts, and here they are being welcomed by the North Star students. And boy, what a great experience that was. And then this in the future, in just a few days, actually, we are going to be able to perform on the North Star stage. This is a copy of the program. The teachers there invited my choir to come and sing with their choir. And then we also actually, right here, you'll see we're going to do our own repertoire too. This is really going to be a great experience for them. And I really look forward to doing these types of things in the future, maybe even on a bigger scale, a global scale. I've got a friend who lives in South Korea, and she and I have talked lots of times about connecting our students somehow. So I'm trying to make that happen. Anyway, so the fifth characteristic is being an observant teacher. This is an example here of the result of some advice I took from a non-educator. I actually was home describing to my husband the problems my students were having transitioning. Our transitions were taking forever, and I couldn't figure out how to motivate them to transition a little quicker. And my husband just brought up the competition motivation. And I did disagree with him at first because I said, competition is not a motivator for everybody. But I decided to try it anyway. And sure enough, after awarding different rows a point system, I really found that my students really are motivated by competition, at least this friendly kind of competition that's not real consequential. This has helped out my transitions a lot. So I think it's really important to make sure and get advice from non-educators. We really get in our teacher bubble, like there's no world that exists outside of the school. And I really think the corporate world has a lot to teach us. The sixth characteristic is being creative. As an innovative teacher, you have to be creative. And I've got a video here that I made as part of a graduate class. Here it is. This is a video I made in music technology. Dr. Moore at the university, as part of the music ed program, teaches this music technology class, and we had to compose and use other forms of media. And so he encouraged me to make a video of something I'm interested in. And of course, that thing I'm interested in is my dog, Josie. And he said to put the video up on the screen and then open up GarageBand. And he really encouraged us to almost improvise, put the video up, let it play, and then start composing. I was a little uncomfortable with this project because I really didn't think of myself as a composer, as a creator. I thought I'm kind of a creative person. I mean, I'm a musician after all, but I really think being part of a conservatory approach to music learning, it was very important for me to build those skills, but I was really not taught to be creative, and I didn't know I could be. And so I'm very proud of this video. It's just a little video of my dog and my little song I made. I'll just start it here. I mean, it's really not much, but it's not like I entered it into a contest. It just was for a grade. But this experience was really healing to me. I was having a hard time personally last summer with a family member's illness, and this was really healing for me, being able to be creative like this. And it wasn't a lot of pressure, and I just kind of smile when I see my cute little dog and I hear my happy little song. Here's the end of the video. Anyway, that just makes me smile, and I think I really want to do that for my students. I want them to experience how good that feels, and it's a skill they're going to need in the future anyway. Another important part of being an innovative teacher is being resilient, and then being able to model that for your students. I actually I have a picture here of some coworkers at my old school at West Lincoln Elementary School. This was a very happy time of my life. I learned a lot in that school, and I had some success in my program and my work relationships and with my students. I really enjoyed my time there. Now, how is that an example of being resilient? Well, the year before this picture was taken, I was my first year back to teaching. It was my first year in a Title I school, and it was not a great experience. In fact, I made just about every mistake you possibly could make as an educator. Anyway, there's a lot of things I did wrong, and it was a tough year. It was probably the toughest year I've ever had in my life, and yet because of that tough year, because I learned from making mistakes, I was able to be at this awesome school and having all this success because I learned from my mistakes. I learned how not to do things. And then here is a picture of a student of mine. This student, Jordan, went to the NMEA All-State Children's Choir. I picked him to be in the choir. He had a beautiful voice, and he just had such wonderful behavior in school. I found out later, once we started practicing, and Jordan wasn't showing up to some of the rehearsals, I found out that he really struggles with responsibility. He has anxieties sometimes, and definitely confidence problems. So I got to really work with him and encourage him a lot. And this is the day of the festival. Jordan kind of disappeared during the rehearsal section of the day, and I found him and found out that he was having some doubts and confidence issue, maybe some anxiety. And another student and I got him to join the group again. We just kept encouraging him, and here he is with a smile on his face. The student brought him back and said, "Hey, Jordan, you can sit with me." One of the other students was really helpful. And so I feel like we really taught him to be resilient, to stick with it. And now he's got a smile on his face because he was proud of himself. The concert was a great experience for him, and his parents were proud of him, and he just had all sorts of good feelings that day. So resilience is good. It needs to be modeled, though, for your students. And then, of course, the last characteristic is reflection. An innovative teacher needs to make time for reflection. So here is just this looks very boring, doesn't it? But it's a research project I've started at the university as part of my master's degree. And I just highlighted a couple of the articles that have actually affected my teaching. And I think they'll affect me in the future too, because really, what good is getting further education and reading research if it's not going to inform your teaching and make a difference? So, I have an interest in building up choirs in middle school and retaining and recruiting, especially males. And I've been doing a lot of research on that. And there's a couple of these that I have highlighted because they really show that. You need to actually ask your students. Each student is going to be motivated differently to be in choir. And so I think it's really important to ask students, like that Google form I had showed here earlier. Survey the students, ask them, find out what motivates them. And then you can be that person to really get them interested in everything having to do with music. And then also I made sure to find some time for my students to reflect. This is one of my drama students. And she is going to be talking about just a quick little video about her experience with the North Star theater troupe that came to visit our classroom, and they modeled how to warm up, and they talked about the why of drama. And so my students really made some connections with the relevance of drama in day-to-day living. So here is Sierra reflecting.
The North Star visit was meaningful to me because they taught us a lot about how to be more open and more loud, I guess, and it was a really fun experience.
And here's Lexi.
I'm glad the North Star drama team or class visited us because it was really fun to learn about what they did and what games they played, and it was just really fun. Yeah.
And Dustin.
I think working with the North Star team for drama was really effective for our class because it helped us learn how to introduce characters and warm up for our play that we're doing, and that they helped us come up with new games and ideas to improve our characters.
So I hope that's pretty informative and not too boring of a tutorial on how to be an innovative teacher.